Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start with a story from our OP's early days in the IT field. A tale of cell phones, corporate expectations, and a touch of malicious compliance. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Somebody, somewhere, is going to pay, one way or another. I work in IT. Some are surprised that I tended to shun cell phones for most of my career. I didn't get one until about 2013. But a big part of the reason was that I knew that, working in IT, if I had one, my employer would expect me to be on call basically 24/7 with no additional pay or anything. There was, still is, a social expectation that you answer your phone, or at least reply via SMS or text, no matter where you are or what you're doing. Out on a nice date? Too bad, boss is calling. Dinner with the spouse? Too bad, boss is calling. Driving your kids to some important medical thing? Too bad, boss is calling. If, when you aren't quick on answering calls or messages, it's always a talking to the next day at the office, despite the fact that 99% of your job can be done remotely. But that's another topic. Always been this way for IT staff, won't ever change. So early in my career, around 2005-ish, I worked at an SMB of around 50 people. Help desk and network admin, working for an IT manager who had no real technical skills to speak of, didn't understand IP addresses, how or why different versions of MS Office have slight variations in the user interface, didn't understand how Flex LM floating license checkouts work, etc., but was good with crystal reports, so they were the IT manager and I was the flunky. This person spent about 80% of their time micromanaging my time and making sure I wasn't idle for so much as 5 minutes of my day. At one point, a person in another department who was working late had some trivial nonsense problem with Microsoft Excel that absolutely 100% could have waited until the next morning to resolve, but was annoyed that the IT manager was beyond clueless to solve his issue at 7:45 p.m., and the regular help desk/network admin guy didn't have a cell phone he could call for off-hour support, so he complained. He complained the next morning by storming into the IT office and berating us, the IT manager and I, about how unacceptable the situation was, and then sent a 5-page follow-up email CC'd to half the company, including the entire executive staff, about how intolerable it was that his dumb pivot table crap didn't get resolved in the late evening. So a couple of days later, I get pulled into a meeting with the IT manager and the HR lady. Reading the room, it felt like I was about to get fired or something. Not for nothing, but I was quite good at my job, and when I eventually quit a couple years after all this, it took them over a year to find a replacement. But it was far worse. They wanted me to get a cell phone. I politely declined, which they were prepared for, as they told me the company would pay for me to get a phone. I asked if I was going to get any kind of salary increase if I was going to be expected to actually answer it. My original employment agreement didn't include any on-call stipulations, and was told there wasn't any money in the budget for that. A blatant lie. The CEO sent us the quarterly earnings every quarter. So I said that I'd take a company-issued cell phone, and I'd even answer it after hours without demanding more pay, on one condition. I got to pick the phone and the carrier. They were delighted, agreed in writing, and were almost giddy as I got up and left the room. I found a Motorola Razr, at the time a new and very expensive phone from NTT Docomo, a Japanese phone company that had the right kind of compatibility to work on the North American cell phone network, but retained a Japanese phone number and had an international roaming plan. I went out of my way to find the worst possible plan, and calling the phone would have incurred two-way international long-distance calling, plus the per-minute international roaming fees and all that, and based on some quick math, it would have cost them over $5 per minute in total to call me. A day or two after the meeting with my boss and the HR lady, I requested the follow-up and presented the phone and plan I'd picked out. It was clear from the body language that they couldn't tell if I was kidding or not. The HR lady finally realized I was dead serious and asked why I picked something so expensive. I said with complete honesty, I find it almost offensive that you want me to be theoretically on call for an unlimited amount of time outside the office, potentially disrupting literally everything I do outside of work hours, but weren't willing to offer me even 1 penny in compensation. Well, if someone wants to call me for support after hours, somebody somewhere is going to pay for that call one way or another. They thanked me and said they'd get back to me about it later. The topic of me getting a company cell phone was never brought up again. I thought you were going to just pick a carrier that didn't have coverage where you live, but this is better. And our second story. Dude, I don't work in this hostel. This happened a few years ago on a vacation. Background, pretty long. So me and my girlfriend, now wife, are South Asian. We were studying in Germany and found the cheapest ticket to go to Italy. Thanks, Ryanair. Being broke students, we booked the cheapest places and had a nice trip. This happened in the Rome part of the trip. We booked the cheapest price we could find in Rome, and it turned out to be bang in the middle of South Asian community. Never had such good food for a long time. So this hostel/hotel had like 4 rooms. The owner waited for us at the arrival time, checked us in, gave us a key to the building. This hostel was an apartment in a residential building, and the room key, and left. So we were alone in that hostel. Incident. The third night there, at middle of the night, there was a constant sound. It was irritating. Turned out to be the intercom. Someone was buzzing from outside the building. I pressed the button to talk. The guy on the other side was furious, male Karen. My South Asian accent, and this being a South Asian neighborhood, it's quite understandable that he mistook me. He, I booked a room. Me, I don't know, I'm just starting here. Call the owner. He, owner's not picking up. Let me in. Me, dude, I don't know who you are. I'm not letting you in. This goes to and fro for quite some time, with a few expletives, and finally his girlfriend said that they're sorry and have booked a room. It's late, they're not feeling very safe, and please let them in. Me, being the great intelligent person I am, let them in. Then loud steps. They're in, and the guy's in my face again. Me wearing just shorts trying to explain I'm staying here, and he demanding that I vacate my room for him to stay. Wouldn't let me talk. At this point, I'm afraid. That guy could have easily beat the crap out of me. This is escalating, and his girlfriend's trying to calm him down, but he's on a roll, explaining the lack of professionalism and demanding I give my room to him, coupled with a lovely dose of racial slurs. Finally, my girlfriend comes out of the room, after 15 minutes of this fighting. She said the same thing I said, but surprise, surprise, the guy listened to a beautiful girl and understood it now. Realization dawned, followed by multiple apologies. We found another room unlocked, and the new couple made it theirs. Next day, the owner apologizes to me and got a free breakfast out of it, and a constant reminder from my wife about my brilliance in letting unknown angry strangers in. It's a good thing that the situation was resolved without any harm, but it certainly could have escalated further. And our last story. $10,000 fines, or how we dissolved our HOA. During a major drought with watering prohibited by law, the HOA decided that it simply had to take drastic measures against any grass turning anything other than bright green. So they hired one of those companies that basically spray paints your grass to make it look healthier than it is. I'm sure there's more to it at a chemical level, but let's be real. You want to spray my lawn with chemicals. The way this was being rolled out was that the HOA was hiring the company, and we were being required to chip in for the shared cost separate from our regular maintenance fee. This alone had a ton of people up in arms. Making matters worse was the very realistic concern that this wasn't going to be healthy for our pets and kids. Well, the spinsters on our HOA board didn't give a crap about anything other than power tripping and cats, so F your dogs and offspring. A few dogs with cancer to them was totally worth it if our lawns didn't look dry. After repeated assurances that it was totally safe for dogs and kids alike, the first family to get their lawn treated was handed a list of do's and don'ts, such as making absolutely no contact with the lawn for something like 48 hours, taking your kids to the hospital if they put the grass in their mouth, etc. That first family threw a crap fit and promptly called everyone else, including physically going to their neighbor as the guy was preparing to do the next lawn. What ensued was nearly everyone in the HOA telling the guy he was not allowed to treat their lawns. The guy then insisting that his being hired by the HOA trumped anyone's right to turn him away, guns being drawn, police being called, etc. HOA threw an absolute crap fit and basically threatened to fine nearly everyone with some stupidly excessive amount. Think north of $10,000 for failure to comply with this mandatory lawn greening. It should be noted that the board was able to get away with so much crap for so long because they held their meetings during the workday, because they were retirees. Well, threaten everyone with a $10,000 fine, and people will be willing to take the day off work, it seems. People showed up in fours. HOA board basically told them that it didn't matter, they were the board, and everyone could F off. Hey, did I mention that everyone under 90 in my HOA is a young professional, including nearly a dozen lawyers of various specialties? It took about a minute for someone to point out that our bylaws allowed for the recall and election of a new board if a special quorum was reached. HOA needed a quorum of something stupid like 4 to conduct business, but if more than 40% of the residents were at a meeting, they could force a vote to recall the board and elect new officers. We did. They were all recalled. New officers were elected, HOA meetings were moved to weekends. We also amended the bylaws to basically make everyone in the HOA a member of a committee that gave everyone more of a say in these things. Executive committee still has some power, but we distributed a lot of the power evenly across all homeowners. The old folks who tried to ruin everyone's lives first tried to sue the HOA to restore themselves to power, immediate fail. Then they tried unsuccessfully to paint the neurologist, new president, and his Unitarian minister wife as amoral occultists who wanted to turn the place into orgy town. They ended up racking up serious fines for violating our no sign rule by plastering their lawn with MAGA signs and complaining that we were violating their free speech. We retaliated by kicking their Mahjong club out of the community room. Host that crap in your house, Granny. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.